This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our Daily Dose podcast, covering all about day-to-day global affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Good evening to everyone who is joining us from Sydney. And again, welcome to our Daily Dose podcast on Thursday. Generally on Thursday, we are discussing about foreign diplomacy, but this time we thought of touch basing upon the special theme of what's trending in Australia, since both George and I are covering this podcast from Sydney. So I thought of having something special towards Australia as well. And we have had quite a lot of political drama in New South Wales in the last 1 week after the resignation of the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian. Now, before we start off that discussion, I also want to congratulate all the people in Sydney and New South Wales who have done a tremendous job in the last 4 months to get us out of this lockdown. And finally, on Monday, a lot of new freedoms are coming for all of us. We can go to the pubs, the bars, and whatever freedoms we were looking for in the last 4 months are coming finally to us after we reached 70% double jabs yesterday. So congratulations to all of you. It is not possible without everyone coming together, without the community, the government, all come together into that thing. Now, anything special that you're going to do, George, on that first day of 11th of October?
Well, I'm actually not a person that goes to the pub as a regular thing, but I might actually just do it for the heck of it because I haven't been able to do it at all. As you know, my lovely wife's birthday was last week and we couldn't celebrate it on the 2nd. So we might just go out and have dinner somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, George. I would love to be a part of that dinner once, I can come to that side of Sydney as well. But to touch base upon what's happening in New South Wales, quite a lot has happened since the time, we did our last podcast on Thursday. After that, there is a dramatic turnaround of events in terms of who is taking charge in terms of the NSW Liberal Party. Now, the whole situation is revolving around this one individual whose name is Daryl William Maguire, and he's a former Australian politician who was also the NSW Legislative Assembly. He was representing from Wagga Wagga for the Liberal Party from 1999 to 2018. And what the Independent Commission have revealed that he was in fact involved in some sort of land sale to property dealers, which was worth $330 million. And in return, they paid him a $700,000 commission, which he intended to use in paying off his debts, which unfortunately the Premier was also aware of. And that's why they had to summon her in that case as well. What's your initial take on this, George?
Well, yet again, we've seen somebody that's done such a good job in many other areas come undone for another reason. There's a few points that's worth mentioning so that everybody actually just stops and has a think about it. Number one, the corruption inquiry did not tell her to stand down. That was her choice. I'm not suggesting that she could have easily done something else, but she did have the choice. She could have stayed in the position and she could have said, normally I would stand down, but in this situation, I'm not going to. She could have stood down and said, I'm going to actually stay in the Parliament for a bit longer and see what happens with all of this. She chose not to. So they didn't get her to step down. Everybody's saying is they forced her to. Well, for mine, you have to accept responsibility for your decisions. Okay. The other side of it is that I've seen so many people put up a post about tall poppy syndrome, tall poppy. This has got nothing to do with tall poppy syndrome. What this has got to do with is somebody may have had a gross misjudgment. Now, not saying she has, because we don't know yet, because the thing hasn't been gone through. But whether she was a tall poppy or not has nothing to do with it. What it's about is, did you breach certain conditions, right? Did you breach certain rules? So whether she was a backbencher, a front bencher, a side bencher, or a no bencher, or the Premier, none of us are above the law. That's how I see it at the moment.
Absolutely, George. And unfortunately, when we even look into that phone conversation, she seems to have been aware of what is happening in that deal. And she did not say a yes or no to that. But again, she was aware of what was happening in that situation. And that's what, yes.
I
yes,
would
George.
challenge you on that. Her words do not indicate that she was aware of that deal, because she said, I don't really need to know about the details, right? So what I'm saying is that phone call, in my eyes with her, does not prove that she was aware of the deal. But I'll tell you what it did prove. That she didn't bother to find out whether she should be aware of it. So you know, Rob, I'm very particular about telling the truth, telling lies, misleading. I've called out a few politicians on that publicly. That phone call does not prove that she did know, but the words that she spoke does prove to me that my Premier didn't think it was important to say, hang on, you better tell me about this so that I need to know whether I should take action or not. That's what her words actually do. And that to me is a worry. That is like a policeman saying, well, I don't think you should open up the boot because if there's something in there that's illegal, I'll have to do something. Yeah. That policeman should say, whether you're my lover or not, my mother, my brother, my sister, my aunt, whatever, open the boot because that's my job. And she is supposed to care. She is supposed to know.
Absolutely. And, nobody can undermine the kind of work she has done in the last 2 years, because we should not forget that she has gone through the time when we faced the unprecedented bushfires, followed up with a pandemic that was unknown to us, a COVID-19 pandemic, as well as, these kind of unprecedented situations, which nobody expected before. So I think that is something which she needs to be appreciated of. But again, this kind of a case also undermines her role in a lot of sense. And possibly, I don't know, George, I might want to know your comments on that as well, that a lot of politicians around the world are trying to undermine the power of the independent institutions once they try to summon you, or once they try to investigate you, by saying that they are not independent enough to do that. And that's what happened here as well. If you look at some of the allegations have been there, that the timing of this case, or the timing of the media release that happened from the Independent Commission of Corruption, was a bit political, as stated by the Liberal leaders, and that the Commission's potentially lengthy reporting timeline had made her position untenable. Now, what do you think about this fact that is there a notion for the politicians to undermine the independent institutions after they do that, to make them feel irrelevant, or make them feel that their arguments are political?
Okay, so I'm in the middle of taking some people to court over a property deal. That action has been going on for 2 years. The court finally decided that we had to do certain things. And when that came out, it was the worst possible week for me to have to sit down and write all of that information. And do you know, that court never rang me. That court never said, hi, George, how are you going? Does this fit in with your schedule? Because the court doesn't care. nor should it care. The court is going through its process, right? Now, this is another thing with this thing with Gladys or anybody else. If you believe that the system is broken, or you think it's taken too long or whatever, then talk about that. Talk about that. But to say that oh, they shouldn't have brought it out, that's so what? Is there any level, if they believe that she was actually stealing the petty cash money, should they just let that go because she's busy? Or should they say, well, look, why don't we just we'll leave this until when is a premier not busy, and when somebody please tell me when is a good time for a premier to have to step down? Because if that job is so unimportant that only through COVID and all of that it doesn't really matter, there's something wrong with that job. So did they take too long? I don't know. What's the information that they had? And again, I've used this analogy many, many times. It's amazing how the people behind the wicket or sitting in the grandstand are so clever at telling what the batsman should do or shouldn't do. So, ICAC took too long. Okay, what did they go through? Oh, I don't actually know. All right. ICAC should have done this and this. Well, how do you know they didn't consider it? Oh, well, I don't. ICAC, all the people that are saying this, and isn't it amazing? I don't know whether you happen to notice this, Sarab, but the ones that are most offended by the timing happen to be the people in her own party. Did we expect them to say anything different? Did we expect all of the Labor people to say, this is a terrible time, and all the Liberal people to say, no, it's a brilliant time? Yeah. The politicians bring the politics into independence, not the independent.
And this discussion can, really go on and on. We can have a couple of hours of discussion as well on this topic. But what I want to know, also tell and communicate to the audience that, again, we are not here to discuss or take any particular sides. We are here to discuss about facts, and we are sharing independent perspectives on this particular topic without taking any particular sides, because we think that a constructive discussion will always lead to some sort of valuable results that can come out of this discussion to whosoever is listening to us, and they can also develop their own perspectives. Everybody is open to share their own perspectives in that regard. Now, these are just perspectives of George and myself, which we are sharing here. Also, George, I want to know about this interesting thing which is going on in the media. What's next for her in terms of her political career? Because many feel that it's not the end of her career and she might be thinking to move towards the national level. Do you think it's too early? Is this jumping the gun at this moment?
Well, I may live to be embarrassed by my statement, but I do not believe she'll go international. And if she does, it wouldn't be anything under 5 or so years. She's just come out of one heck of a bun fight. She's like, and I just want to reiterate a point that I make each time when I talk about her or any other Liberals. I am historically and traditionally a Liberal voter. So I am not bagging her because I'm not a Liberal voter. I am as independent of my judgment as I can be. But I can't until this is resolved, she can't do anything, because if she felt that she could move into federal, she would have stayed as Premier. If she felt that she could move into federal, she would have stayed on the backbench until this is over. So until this is resolved, she's in standby mode. But I would be very, very surprised if she would do that, because I'm not sure that you want to go from being the Premier of New South Wales to just one of the many in federal politics. I don't think she'll leave the Liberal Party. I think she'll try to do as best she can to help get more equality for women, and that'll be a good thing. But despite what many people think, she can probably pick up a damn sight more money with a lot less aggravation in business now than she could in the going back into that nonsense.
Yep.
And can I just make one other point on this, Rob? We're focusing on Gladys. I've seen a lot of people come out and say Perrottet is the worst thing, and Perrottet this and Perrottet that, and he said his beliefs guide his judgment, and everybody's gone up in arms. His beliefs obviously would guide his judgment, the same as if he was an atheist, his beliefs would probably guide his judgment. The same as if he believed in little green men, it would guide his judgment. You cannot divorce yourself from your internals. Now, when we say that it guides his judgment, he still is there to represent the people. So I will certainly debate and argue about his ideas that abortion should be banned and all that sort of stuff. But to say that somebody can't be there because they happen to believe in God, that's the same as saying, well, the rest of us that do believe in God say that you can only be there if you believe in our version of God. Well, you know, that's not good enough. You've got to be a Muslim. No, that's not good enough. You've got to believe in Buddha. No, that's not good enough. Like, obviously, people from all walks of life are in politics. And the other thing is, it's a bit of a damnation on the rest of the cabinet. If this bloke, because he's far right or far left or top, middle, second row, whatever they want to refer to themselves as, what you're saying is everybody else in that party doesn't get a vote, doesn't count. Well, I'm not sure that sort of works.
Yeah, many have even criticized him to act as a crusader of the hard right faction of his own party that he leads. But again, I don't think you can define anybody even before he has started to work. And considering the fact that he has already shown some sort of abilities to lead while he was a treasurer. So he has already been a treasurer of New South Wales during a crisis situation, not to forget that. You know, considering how difficult it was to balance off with those kind of things happening in the last 2 years with bushfires and COVID-19 pandemic coming into picture. But nonetheless, it doesn't give you a reason to escape away. It's more about how well you can lead the state through a difficult crisis. That's what defines you, a good leader. And his time is yet to begin. His time has not even begun yet.
Well, the other thing is that the suggestion that's being made about the major concern about his religious beliefs and the impact that that's going to have. So that means that we must assume that the majority of people in his electorate believe in his version of far-right Christianity, because he didn't get elected by not having the majority under our system, be it first or preferential or whatever. So there was enough people that said that bloke from the Liberal Party, that bloke in total, I'm going to put my vote that way. Now, what if you take all the rhetoric that's going on at the moment? Everybody that was an atheist shouldn't have voted for it. Everybody that was a non far right Christian shouldn't have voted for it. I would like to know what the percentage of the population is that fits into the same category as Perrottet, because I think it's a few more than what he needed to get elected.
Yep, that's true, George. In terms of the religion point of view, some people have also pointed out at this major challenge. Now, if you look at earlier this week, two people were ahead in the race of becoming the premier. One was the treasurer, Dominic Perrottet, and also the planning minister, Rob Stokes. So both of them were leading in that race, but both of them faced this challenge of, forming a leadership which can actually lead those cross-factional majority MPs within their own party, which the former premier was able to do quite successfully. She was able to cater to the interests of those competing groups and stabilize different groups working within her own party and also the coalition. Now, how does it look like after she has left?
I personally don't think it's any different. He had to get elected by bringing a collective of a majority of votes. I think he won 39.5. So does that mean that 39 out of 44 New South Wales Liberal people are far right Christian? I don't think so. I don't think so. So he has to be able to do enough things in other areas for somebody to say, look, I don't agree with you on that, but I do agree with you on enough things that I'm going to support you. She's the same. She had to, when she was premier, she had to get enough people to back her. And this nonsense that the premier or the prime minister makes the decision all on their own. I seem to remember Malcolm Turnbull thought that was the way to go, and Tony Abbott thought that was the way to go. And that didn't work out so well, because what happened was the rest of the party said, you know what, time to go. So why would the rest of the party vote him in 39.5 if 39 out of 44 didn't think that was the better option?
Yep, that's true. You have a point there, George. Definitely. And I think most of them have voted because of the fact that he has the ability to lead the state in a way which will take us away from the kind of effects we have had after the former premier left us. And there needs to be some stability in terms of the political power we have at New South Wales. Also would love to discuss with you, relate to this fact that at the end of the day, whenever there is a big business deal in place, and that's what one of the news reports quoted, that whenever there is a big business deal is in place, the corruption is inevitable in that case. Do you agree on that? Or, what are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting statement. There's actually probably a lot more people that'll steal $1 than that'll steal 10. There's more people that'll steal 10 than will steal 100. There's more people that'll steal 100 than will steal 1,000. It just goes on and on. And the reason for that is because the smaller the amount, they think, oh, it doesn't really matter because it's only this amount. Now, somebody that is corrupt is corrupt. Somebody who's a liar tells lies. And they generally don't pick the level. That's who you are. If you tell the truth, you tell the truth. And if you're a liar, you're a liar. Right? There's so many areas within government that us, and I call us average Joe Blow mud punter, we don't know enough about what goes on half the time. And I've never, ever believed that it's always the Labor or it's always the Liberal or it's always somebody else. The Independents and the Greens, there's enough stories in those particular parties and independents where there's been people that have done something wrong. There are good people and bad people in every single profession, trade, whatever you want to call it. I have met some fantastic sales reps. I have met some brilliant con men as sales reps. I've met some people that have been terrific as lawyers, and I've met some that have been absolutely abominable. Same for every other profession I've worked with over the last 40 years. I don't think politicians are anything different. Do they have an opportunity better than you and I? Probably. But look, forget about the the Corruption Commission. Do you personally believe that somebody that is looking after your and my money, because the state money is our money, do you think somebody in that position should award something worth $20 million to an organisation within a minister's area and not even her own party is aware that they are having a relationship? Does anybody that's watching this, I'm asking that rhetorical question. Do you honestly think that that's the right thing? I'm sorry, corruption inquiry or not, I believe she did the wrong thing. Does that mean that I'm happy to see her go? No, there's certain aspects. I don't agree with what she did at Parramatta on a number of issues, and I believe between her and Jeff Lee, at very least, they misled, and at the worst, they lied to people in Parramatta, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't think she did a bloody good job in COVID. She did a bloody good job in the fires. Overall, I think she did a good job, right? But I can't just excuse, we'll just excuse that because she did a good job. If I help an old lady across the street, is that okay if I then go and steal your wallet? How does that work?
Absolutely. That's what I was telling you, George, before, that she has definitely proven to be one of the leaders in Australia who has the ability to lead through a crisis situation. And she has definitely proved to be a good crisis leader. And nobody can take away that fact from her. But again, in this kind of matter, there has been a conflict of interest, and a clear conflict of interest, when somebody whom you know, whom you're aware of, you have indirectly kind of not helped him, but indirectly kind of known that situation. Again, as you pointed out, that the phone conversation doesn't reveal that. But, indirectly, there has been a conflict of interest in this case, and that's something which has to be taken care of. Which she has already accepted it, and she herself came out for that resignation after 3 hours of that message by ICAC on Friday afternoon last week. So I think that's also a big thing. Accepting your mistake is a big thing, but you cannot go away from the fact that it was a mistake at that point of time, and it should not have been done.
And she should not have needed anybody to tell her, you should have asked him more details to find out whether that's something that you should check in. That, again, I come back to the analogy. That's like a policeman saying, well, look, because you're my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my son or my daughter, I don't want you to open the boot. I don't care who they are. If especially if somebody says to me, let me tell you a story about what I've got in the boot. No, I don't want to know. Okay. Well, but I'm looking after everybody. I'm looking after everybody's money. I think it's Nick Greiner. I don't know whether you know Nick Greiner, but Nick Greiner was a Premier of New South Wales. And during a reshuffle and trying to sort things out, he was Premier, and he said to one of the ministers or something, look, if we organise for you to get this job over here, will you stand down to let this bloke come in? Or it was something along those lines. And the guy said, yeah, I will. I don't know. I can't remember exactly now because it's too many years ago, and I've probably had too many red wines since. He was asked by the commission, did you have that conversation with that man? He said, yes. Did you offer him that position? He said, yes. Gone. Because you can't do that. Now, there's many a person that'll tell you Nick Greiner was a terrific Premier. Of course, anybody from Labor will tell you that he was terrible. Funny about that. But I'm saying within politics assessment in general, a lot of people will tell you he was a terrific bloke. Right? But unfortunately, according to the rules, he admitted that he had acted inappropriately. Yeah, Barry anyway, our other Premier Barry, his surname escapes me at the moment. He got done because he was sitting in court and he said he didn't remember blah 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 blah. A $500 or $550 bottle of red wine. Now again, pretty hard for you to, like, I can tell you I've been given a bottle of Grange. I can tell you when I was given it. I can tell you who gave it to me, and I can tell you when I drank it and who I drank it with, because it's not often that you get a bottle of Grange that's worth $550 bloody to drink.
Yep.
Is it a big lie? Did it mean that he didn't create jobs? No. He did all of those things. Unfortunately, he broke that one.
And I think this particular case has also served as an example, for other politicians and other leaders within Australia as well, that what implications it can have for them if they try to involve themselves in any kind of such thing, even if they are a popular politician, even if they are at the top of their positions, but the law remains the same for everyone, isn't it? So this is a case study model for all those people.
Look, probably whatever the answer is, she probably doesn't feel so good about the process, but at least people can be comfortable that nobody is above the scrutiny, which again, if from what I've been told, and I haven't read it yet and I haven't studied it yet, and I'm not sure that I really want to stay up at night to do it, but at the right time and place, if I have to, I will. The federal government's idea for their corruption inquiry, number one, it's not retrospective. Okay, so what does that mean? People of Australia, we want to protect you, but we don't want to worry about anything that's happened before today. Let that go. Oh, okay. We have a statute that allows you to go back on invoices 6.5 years, on murder charges so many years, on a break and enter so many years, and this. But something to do with the politician, no, we don't want to look backwards. No, nothing to serve there. Like, I would rather it be that independent and robust than how many of your friends and how many people have you spoken to? Because I can tell you I've spoken to a heck of a lot of people in business and in the community in general. There is a heck of a lot of people that said, we did all of that commission, we did all the Royal Commission into the banks and all of that. We had people admit that they were taking money out of accounts for things that weren't happening. We had people that admit that people that were dead were being charged stuff, right? And how many actually got prosecuted, punished, fined, or whatever, right? Now, and the other thing was that that commission came up with this brilliant concept. The commission started off by saying that mortgage brokers had a conflict of interest because when they're sorting out a mortgage for you, they could be getting paid by whoever gave you the loan, and they consider that a conflict of interest, okay? However, if you're employed by a bank and your wages comes from the bank, and I come and ask you for a loan, do you honestly think that you're going to tell me to go to the opposition bank because they got a better deal? The mortgage broker has less of a conflict because if you go 1 of 10 ways, the mortgage broker is going to get paid. See how many people at the Commonwealth are going to say to you, Sarab, you and George go across to Westpac and get your loan. They got a much better loan. They're not. But that Royal Commission, A, didn't take action against people of any substance. B, came up with a brilliant idea that the people that were going to get paid for any one of 10 people had a conflict, but the person that's only getting paid by one person, by the way, who had copped an absolute banning, that was okay. So Do I think it's perfect? No, but I tell you what, I would much rather see that we can see a premier can be challenged than that the farce of the and there's a lot of people questioning how that ruling came out. That there's a lot of people questioning that Royal Commission ruling. There's not, in that same way, there's not the bias that against Gladys, in my opinion.
Yep. And I think the main reason for raising this discussion was also to engage with the audience of Sydney today, specifically in New South Wales, so that we can try to understand and develop new conversations going on within people, and do become a part of our future podcast sessions as well, in which you can raise your comments. Your perspective can be right or wrong, but the only thing is, whenever we are sharing something or sharing a perspective, there should be a logic attached to that. The only thing which really disappoints me sometimes is that we have got a perspective, but we don't have a logic attached to that. And that is a blindfolded perspective. The moment it becomes a blindfolded perspective, you might be guided to any direction, and you will not know whether it is right or wrong, because you're just copying somebody, or you're taking away someone else's comments. And that's where is the main problem, or why some of the politicians also can get rid of by fooling you, by doing anything. That's what you have to make your own perspective with a logic to that, as to why you feel that you are against that person or you are for that person. Maybe that person is not bad, but in that instance, as in this case, she was not correct, but in multiple scenarios she was correct, right? So as an overall person, you can say that she was able to lead well, but again, she cannot be granted away for this mistake. Any final comments, George? Any final thoughts before we end today's daily dose?
Yeah, look, whilst I'm saying that the investigation should be on the basis of, is she right or wrong in this instance, because that's what it's about. Let's assume that she is found that she has breached the rule. Okay, then you would take into account all the other things that she has done. No different to any other human being. There's people that go to court, and two people can go to court, both can be convicted of the same crime, but the judge says, in the overall scheme, weighing up all the things, I've got a range of penalty that I can use, right? The police do the same thing. We all do the same thing, right? But you cannot say, if somebody does one or two things good, they are then allowed to do two things that are against the rules. You just can't, because the way to do that, I'll go and help 5 ladies across the street, then I can take five wallets. I can make a business out of this. Or I'll take 1 wallet for every 5 people. That's terrific. It is an illogical argument.
And also, before we end today's daily dose, I want to just move beyond this serious discussion and also communicate to the people who are listening to us from Sydney that Monday is going to be your day, your freedom day. So enjoy it to the fullest. And this has taken us 4 months of time to come out of it. And also to those people who have still not got their first dose or second dose, if you've not got your first dose, I must say that your train is running really, really late. And if you have not got your second dose, I think it's better to get your second dose before your friends start teasing you. So get that second dose, and as well as your first dose, so that we can take that vaccination rate up, beyond 90%, and we can think of opening our borders as well to other countries. And that's what I'm sure each one of us is looking at.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you so much, George, for attending today's session.
Great talking to you again, my friend.
We hope to see everyone tomorrow. We have very special program for tomorrow for the international students in tie-up with the opportunities. In fact, the J Australia CEO, Aaron, he will be discussing about how to build team building skills and leadership skills while you are working in a team, in a university or a corporate team. And would definitely love to have you, George. You can tell me afterwards if you want to be a part of that. Thank
if you
so
get, let me know what time that's on, and I will try and rearrange things to be there.
Sure. Thank you so much. See ya. Have a great day.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.